I'm Pete Dupre. I'm on the town council. I developed projects for about 15 years. We had a solar program for a number of years and we weren't seeing a lot of people taking advantage of it. And I had worked in renewable energy for about 15 years and I just, the solar resource is good, you get tax credits. So I wasn't really sure why we weren't getting traction. So talked to the green team and we said, well, maybe if we did a little more marketing and had a little more incentive that people would start to get interested. And now is really the time to take advantage of solar. The costs have come down dramatically. It's on a utility scale, it's comparable to a gas or a coal plant from a cost point of view. So, with a 26% tax credit, a good solar resource, our friends at San Miguel Power have a $750 rebate. And then getting a large group of 30 or so people together to then have some size in what we're going to install. Hopefully we can get costs down even further. So I think the whole idea around this initiative is let's take advantage of the incentives that are out there and then get more cleaner energy, because that's one of the town's big initiatives, is to try to eventually get to zero net emissions. And one good way to do it is solar. So that's the whole idea around this program. And I think it's off to a really good start so far.
Hi guys, I'm Zoe Donnell. I'm with the town of Mountain Village and I am the Business Development and Sustainability Director. Just to piggyback off of what Pete was saying, the town was really excited at revamping our solar initiative and 100% agreed with the green team and Pete that we needed to up our incentive to really help our community do this renewable energy source of installing solar on their houses. So we partnered with the Telluride Mountain Village Owners Association, and we're now introducing a great incentive. It's going to be $2,500 for the first 20 people that install. And then we do have a pool of additional funds for those that live in deed restricted housing. So for those that live in deed restricted housing, you can get up to $5,000 depending on how many deed restricted people install on their house. So that's kind of our goal, and we're really excited to add on to the other incentives given by our SMPA and state and federal rebates. And I think this should be one of the most affordable times to install solar in Mountain Village, especially thanks to Bryce and his team. So thank you.
So I'm Terry Schuyler. I work for San Miguel Power. I've actually been in solar for 44 years, so I've bring that element to the utility. I worked at both national labs that deal with solar, which was before it was NREL, was a Solar Energy Research Institute, now NREL, and then Sandia Labs doing their system engineering work back in the late 80s, early 90s. We have a pretty progressive program. I think we're the only co-op in all of Tri-States territory that offers a solar rebate still, partly because I insist on it. And it was progressive. They have been doing this for years, and we're going to continue that as long as we have this green fund that we're working with, which is another program that we have that is the source of the funds that we use for the rebates. We're also rolling out a brand new rebate this year, actually on Earth Day, for battery systems. So we'll have an additional $500 rebate for battery systems, should that be something that folks choose. And I have a solar and a battery system in my house here in Ridgeway. And so I'm a proponent of the batteries as well, partly for battery backup and independence, but also just, well, mostly for that. Now, there's other potential reasons to have a battery based on the future uses of batteries, depending upon how the utility goes forward with rates and things. And I'm sure your presentation will touch on that. But I'm here to answer questions about the programs that we have at San Miguel Power, and to support this group and encourage it. We're all behind it. I think it's great.
Well, thanks. My name is Marty Prohaska. I am on the Mountain Village Town Council. I am the vice chair of the Green Team, and then the chair of the solar committee as it is now. And I think that we did a good job of explaining, how we got here and the background and history of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. And I think, now the question is, what's next? And that's why we've got Bryce here, Bryce Carter from Solar United Neighbors. So we roped in this nonprofit organization because this is what they do. They have provided this type of framework for promoting solar, across the country and across the state, and have been very successful, I think, in a lot of their efforts. And Pete had, kind of, referred to it a little bit, but, going with this co-op concept is, I think, very beneficial for both the homeowner as well as the installer. And so, it's multi-beneficial for everybody involved. But I think, for me personally, and I have signed up for the co-op, I live in affordable housing down here in the Meadows. What I'm most excited about, what I think that this process can bring, is some understanding of what it is going to take for anyone who's interested to install a solar system. And, I think some of the questions that folks may have, Bryce will answer. But I think, for me, what is really compelling is that I'll be able to learn a lot about whether or not solar is feasible for me and financially, but as well as, technically viable, simply by signing up for this co-op. And that, to me, has huge amount of value. Even if I don't end up installing solar for various reasons, it's been really great to see how much interest we've gotten so far and how much education has gone on so far. Again, having been on the side of signing up for the co-op. And we're just so thrilled that we have professionals here in Bryce and his team to help us help lead us through this process. So I think with that, I will turn it over to Bryce.
Thank you, Marty. And to wrap things up, my name is Bryce Carter. I am the Colorado Program Director with Solar United Neighbors. We'll talk a little bit about organization tonight and dig into kind of a Solar 101 presentation. And so as we get started, I really want to sincerely thank all of our partners and the great leaders in Mountain Village. Certainly, as we have Zoe, Marty, Pete, and many others, both with the town of Mountain Village as well as the green team. We also, with the San Miguel Power Association, that partnership's been great, being able to work together and collaborate to make sure we're well informed of the opportunities, rebates that are available. And then certainly the Telluride Mountain Village Owners Association and for their contribution to make our program accessible with rebates and support. So again, we are really appreciative of this collaboration. It's what makes these types of activities and these programs successful, as well as our ongoing statewide partners, including Alpine Bank, the Colorado Renewable Energy Society, the Energy Colorado, Solar Citizens, the Colorado Latino Forum, Vote Solar, and many others. So to kick things off, I'll do a little bit of an overview of who we are as Solar United Neighbors and how we got started. So Solar United Neighbors is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're focused on being a community of people building a new energy system with rooftop solar at the cornerstone. We pride ourselves in helping people go solar, come together, and fight for their energy rights. And one important aspect that we want to highlight, especially from the roots of our organization, we were founded in 2007, or really started as a movement in 2007 in Washington, D.C. And we very quickly learned the idea of solar is not always accessible to all, and especially frontline communities of color. They are bearing the brunt of a lot of climate impacts, pollution, and other injustices. And as we look at having a just transition to a renewable energy future, we realize it is a huge priority for us to make sure that these opportunities and these benefits are accessible. And so that's where, again, we are happy to present the opportunity with the rebate to make sure that in Mountain Village, those in deed restricted housing have additional opportunity to make it a little bit more affordable. And we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. So as I mentioned, we started back in 2007. These two young gentlemen, on the left is Walter and the right is Diego. And after they watched An Inconvenient Truth, they were inspired to take some type of action to make a difference. And after doing some research, they realized that solar was a really great way for them to be able to make a tangible difference in reducing their fossil fuel use right at their home. So Walter did the best thing he could think of, which was lobby his mom to say, hey, let's figure out how to do this. And after some additional persistent lobbying, finally, Anya Schulman, his mom, said, sure, let's figure this out. Let's also bring in a few neighbors to figure out how we can learn about this process going solar together. So very soon, Walter and Diego are going up and down all the stairs in their community, and they actually recruited 50 of their neighbors to go together in what became the very first solar co-op, the Mount Pleasant Solar Cooperative. Since those humble beginnings, we have grown as an organization to now help serve over 5,500 people going solar, both families and businesses alike. And our Colorado program was launched about 2 years ago. Since launching in 2 years, we've worked everywhere from the Front Range to Mesa County, all the way up to looking at the Yampa Valley and understanding what it means to go solar in a variety of communities. And so we've helped over 200 families and businesses in Colorado go solar, as well as helped provide investment of over about $4.8 million. So we're excited to continue this momentum in the Mountain Village community. So with that said, we'll dig into a little bit of the solar technology 101 stuff. And again, we'll pause at the end of that section just to answer any questions on that aspect. We'll dig in a little bit more with solar co-ops and how they work. And then finally, talk a little bit about the solar economics and some of the rebates that we were just discussing. So let's dig in. So starting with the very basics, solar photovoltaic, PV, photo being light, voltaic being power, is essentially being able to convert the electricity or the photons from the sun, from light, into electricity. And so it's, again, converting that solar energy into electricity that can be used in our homes. Right now, solar panels on the market are about 20% efficient. So that means when you have a certain amount of area on the ground where the sun hits it, 20% of that can actually be converted into electricity. How does it do that? Well, it does it with essentially silicon wafers. Because of physics, once those photons hit the silicon wafer, it creates an electrical current with electrons that can be captured and then directed in a direct current that then can, again, create that electricity. And so a bunch of these silicon wafers are wired together and then sealed into a module, which is where you get a solar panel from. Then when you line a bunch of these solar panels together, that's where you get a solar array or a solar system. Now, it's important to note in terms of terminology when we talk about solar systems, kilowatts and kilowatt hours. We measure the system size based on kilowatts. And the way I like to think about that is horsepower in a car. So if you're imagining going up a steep hill and you're flooring your engine, you're using the maximum potential of your engine and that maximum horsepower. Same thing applies with kilowatts. Let's say it's noon on a really sunny day, you're going to get the maximum potential of what your system can produce. So in this case, it's a 3 kilowatt solar system or a 3,000 watt solar system with these solar panels here. So that would be the capacity or the kilowatt capacity that it has. Now measuring that over time is similar to miles per gallon. So if you're looking at from noon to 2 on a really sunny day, you have that maximum potential of solar. You would produce for a 3 kilowatt system, 6 kilowatt hours. So 3 per hour. And so that's how you would measure that over time. It's important to note most homeowners install anywhere between 2 to 12 kilowatts of solar capacity. It really is a variety of a personal decision-making and what your goals are for your home, as well as the limits of your home and your roof and the way that the solar system could be installed. We'll dig into that in a moment. So you have electricity being produced in a direct current with these solar panels, and we need to convert that into alternating current, which is electricity we use in our homes. You can do that either at each individual solar panel with a microinverter, or you can do it with a string inverter where all those panels would be strung into one single inverter that allows that conversion to happen. Regardless, every single panel is going to have either an optimizer or a microinverter, which is basically a computer that if there are any issues, they can actually shut off the system to make sure there's no electricity. Then once it's converted, it can be directed to your electrical panel. Oftentimes it's a simple connection and you don't need any upgrades. Though if you do, it's probably wise for you to go ahead and get those because electrical code is based on safety, making sure that your home is safe with the electrical needs of your home. So again, that's something to consider, especially if you have an older home or if your electric meter or system is fully built out. So to recap, you have the sunlight hitting those solar panels that are producing that direct current. It gets converted into alternating current through the solar inverter, goes through that electrical panel. And at that point, that electricity goes wherever the demand is. So in your house, if you're using electricity, you're powering your lights or doing the laundry, those electrons will go straight into powering those electronics. Otherwise, anything that overflows will go through your utility meter and onto the grid and help power your neighbors' homes. When we talk about additional components with solar systems, obviously the solar panels need to go somewhere. And so there are racking systems that will be able to safely and securely attach your panels to your roof. These can be rated for high snow loads. So that's always a question we get in mountain communities. And they use a variety of different racking systems depending on the type of roof you have. So the most common with asphalt shingle is flashing systems that are weatherproofed and sealed to make sure there's no leakage. You have a weighted ballast system and standoff beams for flat roofs. And then if you have a metal roof, you can actually use clamps and not even need penetrations or pitch pockets. So again, there's a variety of technologies that allows you to design a system that could work for you. And so this is just an example again of a rooftop on a metal seam roof without any penetrations that would be needed. And then in addition, you can see these are the solar panels from a parapet to parapet wall using I-beams. Certainly, if you happen to have a yard that has space, you could also design and build a ground mount system, though there would be additional costs for that because you would have to actually build out the foundation as infrastructure to support those panels, as well as trench a wire to your roof. But again, it's an option if for any reason that you can't or rather not have solar on your roof. So as part of the role of Solar United Neighbors, we do an initial roof review for everyone that signs up with us. And so to see if your roof would be good for solar, there are three main things we look at. We first look to see if there's any shading. Is there a tree or building nearby that sometime during the day or during different seasons, would you have limitations with your solar potential? In addition, we look at your roof design, how much space is available to put solar panels on. And we look for at least a minimum of 200 square feet of minimum space, just to make sure that you'll be able to put a system on there. If you have a lot of obstructions or pipes, that's something that certainly can limit your solar potential. And then finally, which direction is your roof facing? The most ideal direction is southern facing, so that way all year round you get the maximum solar potential. Due east and due west are also favorable in terms of, again, accessing that solar potential throughout the year. In addition, there are options. So if none of that works, community solar is an option in a lot of communities. I know that the local options available, I believe, are at maximum capacity. So there's a wait list for that. So certainly that's always something, though, that if there's like increased demand, there's always opportunities to explore. Is there more community solar that could be built? So as an organization, we are always happy to champion if there's opportunities to demonstrate that support for more solar. I also want to acknowledge that San Miguel Power Association has some really great green power programs as part of their offerings. So they have a totally green program where for 1 additional cent per kilowatt hour on your bill, you will be able to achieve 100% renewable sources like solar, wind, and hydro. They also have a green block program where essentially you can purchase a renewable energy credit where 100 kilowatt hours is $1 that you'd be charged on your bill. And depending on your demand, that could be $7 or $8 a month. And then finally, you can also use Green Cents, which rounds up your bill to the nearest dollar to support the Green Fund, which Terry had mentioned briefly earlier. I also want to just highlight, again, some of these direct rebates that you'll be able to take advantage of if you do decide to go solar with the solar co-op. So the solar rebate that is offered through San Miguel, they have a 25 cents per watt up to 3 kilowatt rebate. And so that's a maximum of $750 that you would be able to get off of your system. In addition, if you do decide to also go with an electric vehicle charger, which is also offered through our solar co-op, they offer 50% of the cost match up to $1,000. And then finally, as Terry mentioned, going through Earth Day, a new battery rebate that's currently in development, which we expect to be $500 with a minimum capacity of 6 kilowatt hours is going to be available. So that's a really great opportunity. And I just am amazed. There's just really cool other rebates that they have. The list is pretty extensive, from energy audits, electric heat pumps, LED lights, Energy Star appliances, electric water heaters, thermal storage, outdoor electric equipment, and electric vehicles. I mean, it's a heck of a lot. So you can go on the website in terms of learning more about these. But I also, since Terry, you're on, I just want to give you a quick opportunity. Is there anything I've missed or anything you want to highlight with these rebates?
No, there's one that's going to be rolled out for all electric home new construction, which probably wouldn't apply to many of the co-ops unless they're building a house from scratch. But yeah, that's we do have an extensive list of rebates available. Beneficial electrification is the new buzz term, and that's all about fuel switching away from fossil fuels towards electrical appliances, because our current energy mix is about 30% renewable and is guaranteed to be more renewable shortly, by state legislature and otherwise. So going electric means your energy supply will become progressively more renewable with time.
Yeah, and I'm in the Denver metro area myself, and I'm just amazed at all the offerings you guys have. So you're lucky, and certainly there is that movement that we're seeing toward beneficial electrification. So certainly, as you look at solar, all these great things are definitely something to consider as well. I always encourage, as you look at solar, an energy audit, seeing how you can improve the energy use at your home can also help reduce the size of your solar system. So these are just things to think about at this stage of looking at going solar. A big question right now in everyone's minds is what happens when the power goes out? And for a lot of folks in California and Texas, they realize that even if you have solar, unless you have a battery system, your power is going to go out as well. And that's a safety mechanism. So a solar system, whenever there's a loss of power, shuts down as well to make sure that there are no electrons being put onto those wires when the linemen come out. So you're going to need batteries if you want to have power during an outage. Some of the considerations of why you might want battery storage include time of use, which currently is not being offered in the area, but we are seeing other utilities begin to go in that direction, which is essentially, depending on the time of day, electricity is going to be more expensive, particularly in the later afternoon into the early evening. And so you can actually use a battery to offset that demand. If you're in a rural location or if you experience frequent utility outages, batteries can provide additional resilience in terms of brownouts and blackouts. If you have critical loads at home, medical equipment, well pumps, even server equipment can be protected through a battery system. And then finally, emergency and disaster preparedness. Oftentimes, especially in urban areas, when there's a disaster, you always have the one house that has battery storage, and then they have the extension cords where everyone's plugging in their cell phones. So certainly there is, again, in the theme of resiliency, and all of us in Colorado are very familiar with what that means. So the most common batteries that we see are both lead acid and then lithium ion batteries. Lead acid tend to have a lower upfront cost, and they also are tried and true. The cons are that they do require additional maintenance. They require venting. They are a little bit slower in terms of discharge, and they require more space. But also then on the lithium ion side, they're a higher energy density. They do have a longer lifespan, and they're more efficient in terms of using less space, but it is a higher cost. And especially in the aftermath of Texas, we have heard from multiple installers in recent weeks that the cost of batteries have gone up pretty significantly. And I know everyone always asks about Tesla Powerwalls. I know that the wait time for those is anywhere from 6 to 8, maybe even more months right now. So just in terms of expectations, I wanted to set that up. There are other battery types. We won't go into those right now, but we do have a battery guide on our website that you can also download. So just to run through a quick example here, we have the Johnson's family here. They do lose power from the utility several times a year. And each time they lose power, it's out for about the entire day. So for them, they want their battery bank to be able to be fully recharged with their solar system. So they're looking at a 6 kilowatt hour battery bank tied to the 5.6 kilowatt solar system. But it's worth noting that if the power is out, if, for instance, there's like a snowstorm and your panels are still covered, you're not going to be able to produce any electricity. So once those panels shed that snow and can reaccumulate that electricity, that's when you begin to get that power back. So you have the power as long as, again, up until you run out or until the solar panels are able to get that energy. So you designed a system anticipating, well, what could they live without and with for one day? And so they wanted to keep their refrigerator and a small microwave working. They wanted to look at their some lights and outlets and their cable modem to make sure they were still connected to the internet if they lost power. But they chose not to power their stove, their dryer, and their electric water heater because they knew that they could live without those things for one day. And this slide is just to note that we are talking about storage. There are additional costs to that. They can be significant, but depending on what your goals are, there are ways to design your system and look at those economics, and they might make sense for you. And so, as I mentioned, we do have our battery storage for homeowners guide. So you can go to solar9neighbors.org/storage, learn a little bit more there. You also can feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. And lastly, I'll talk briefly about electric vehicles because with this co-op, you can go solar and or get an electric vehicle charger and or get batteries. And that's the way we're going to establish our request for proposal for local installers. So certainly having an electric vehicle is a really great combination. Your roof will be able to power your car, and it's that clean, accessible fuel that you'll be able to use. The standard chargers that we're seeing in the market right now are level 2 chargers, which require a 240 volt outlet. And typically what that means is you would need to have an electrician likely wire a new wire to your garage or where your carport would be. And so with a 240 volt outlet at a level 2 charger, you get anywhere from 10 to 30 miles of charge per hour. And that depends on how many amps are available and the type of vehicle that you have to charge. There are a variety of units and brands, and the typical warranty that we see for chargers are 3 years. And so in estimating what impact that your vehicle could have on your demand with solar, this is just a helpful guide to look at how many miles driven annually versus how many kilowatts of capacity can help offset those miles. And then additional, here are the costs. Again, there is that rebate that's available for up to half the cost, up to, was it $1,000?
Yeah, $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000. Yep. So again, so this is just something to think about as you're looking at your whole house energy system. So great. And then what makes all this possible is a policy called net metering. And that allows electricity to flow from your house to the grid, to and from. And so every kilowatt hour that is produced with your solar system is going to be equivalent to 1 kilowatt hour consumed. So again, you get that 1-to-1 credit. So when you generate more electricity than you use, that extra electricity can flow back through the meter and you receive a credit on your power bill. And that credit can roll over month to month. And again, it's as simple as that. It's not electricity used minus the amount of electricity produced, and that's how you get your bill. So I'll run through some frequently asked questions, and then we'll pause just to answer any questions from the group here tonight. First, in terms of warranties, there are 3 main warranties to consider with solar. First is the production warranty, or so the power production warranty basically states that the capacity of your solar system, it does degrade over time, but it says essentially after 25 years, we often look for no less than 80% reduction, or down to 80% of efficiencies for your solar system. So if you have a 10 kilowatt capacity solar system, after 25 years, it'll be no less than 8 kilowatts of capacity that it could produce. So again, that's the power production warranty. There's also the manufacturer's warranty. So if there's any issues with the panel itself, they'll be able to warranty that. That's typically for at least 10 years, sometimes up to 25 years that's offered. And then finally, there's also the installer's warranty, the workmanship warranty. So when they do those penetrations on your roof, you're protected in case there's anything that's not sealed properly or if there's any other issues. And that's anywhere from a 10 to 25 year warranty that could be offered as well. For homeowners insurance, we typically don't see any major increases with your homeowners insurance. It's always good to call ahead and just check in with them. I've talked to a few people that for some reason they claimed that there was several $100s of increase. That's extremely atypical. In fact, some insurance companies have offered savings and rebates if you do go solar. In my own personal case, I installed solar on a detached garage. And since that was insured differently than my house, I pay about $1 more per month, which I figure is a fair deal. So again, look at that, see if there's savings or if there's any change. And if you do see an increase in cost, it might be time to shop around. In terms of maintenance of your solar systems are fairly low maintenance. There's really not much you need to do. If you have a string inverter, depending on the design, the warranties for those often are between 12 to 15 years, give or take. So the string inverter might need to be replaced during the life of your solar system. There are extended warranties that might cover 25 years, but that's one aspect of maintenance. The other thing is, especially in Colorado, we have seen the consequences of climate change. We've seen what happens when we have lots of fires and smoke and dust. And so there might be times of the year where it might be worth just to do a quick hose down of your panels to make sure you get that maximum potential. Back in October in Denver, when we had just persistent smoke, I did that and found out that my solar system had between a 5 to 10% increase in efficiency because I just washed it down, but no need to use soap or anything like that. You're able to do that. But otherwise, typically, they're really hands-off. You can watch your production over time, and just through the cycles of the seasons, they'll be able to clean themselves. How long do systems last? I know early on when we were doing introductions, someone was saying that their panels are from 17 years ago. I've talked to people with solar panels from the 70s and 80s that were, I think, it was like 50 or 75 watt panels. And so long story short is they can last, certainly with the power production warranty, we see them lasting for decades. And so some people have them even longer. So again, they're a pretty solid investment in terms of knowing what your return is going to be. And when it comes to homeowners associations, they can't prevent you from installing solar, but you would want to work with them to kind of figure out, is it right to site them on your specific spaces of your roof? So same thing with insurance, reach out to them, have a conversation. If you have any issues, let us know. We do have a guide for homeowners associations as well and working with them. So again, we're a resource for you. And finally, if there's a historic district that applies, there's more restrictions that could be there. Again, we're happy to be a resource and work through those challenges. Oftentimes, nothing insurmountable. We tend to not run into too many issues with that in Colorado. And then finally, the $1 million questions, what about hailstorms? And my favorite story is the fact that Colorado's most expensive natural disaster in our history was a hailstorm that centered in Golden in 2017. And also right there in Golden is the National Renewable Energy Lab. That lab has over 3,000 solar panels outside and exposed. And this hailstorm, I mean, literally wiped out the mall in the area. It just punctured for roofs and cars and everything. And out of those 3,000 panels, only one shattered. So certainly they're a very resilient product. If there are multiple hailstorms and you have damage, if anything does get damaged, that is an insurable thing, because we saw that in one area of Colorado Springs. But again, typically they're resilient and they'll continue to produce even through a hailstorm. So part two, digging into how we operate. So a solar co-op is essentially a group buy. And again, as a nonprofit, we operate where we want to make it easy and free to participate through the solar co-op process. So there's no obligation to go solar. Because it is a group process, we help you get the best value on your installation. We do see oftentimes, because of economies of scale, there is savings that can be realized. We are here to provide support throughout that process. So we can help answer your questions, or if we can't, we can connect you to people that can. We can connect you with fellow solar enthusiasts as we really are building a network all across the state and other mountain communities as well, as we look at some of those unique challenges. As well as an organization, we also do advocacy. We want to be part of the growing solar movement to make sure that solar rights are protected. We are currently engaged in statewide legislation to support growing solar access, and I'll talk briefly about that at the end. So if you are interested in being more of a part of the work we do, you can go beyond just going solar. But if all you want to do is go solar with us and move on, that's totally fine too. So in terms of our process, we, from that first time that we had a first solar co-op, took about 2 years. We've actually streamlined that to about 4 to 8 months. And then Mountain Village would be one of our quicker ones, mainly because we're trying to work within the season, the summer season, to see if we can get everyone installed before winter comes back. But really, where we are now is kind of through the first and second stage. We're doing community outreach, and the amount of support that we've received from the town to get that word out is huge. It's making sure that folks can attend information sessions just like this, learn about solar, again, answer those questions, and just spread that word and word of mouth, especially in the age of COVID. Once we hit about 30 participants, and we're right around, I think 22 is the last I saw, we will begin to initiate a request for proposal process from local and regional installers. So they'll be able to come up with bids where they offer different priced equipment and warranties and all those things. And we'll be able to do an apples to apples comparison and decide on the best installer that will serve the co-op. And when I say we, it's actually not Solar United Neighbors. We're vendor neutral. It's our members themselves that form a selection committee, review those proposals, and make an informed decision. In fact, last night we just did that for Westminster, and we had a 2.5-hour discussion that led to a great decision. So again, it's a really fun process, and then anyone that's a member is welcome to participate. Once that installer is selected, they can immediately begin reaching out to our members and working with them to. Oftentimes they can do virtual visits for your house, looking at LiDAR data and satellite data, which is pretty accurate in terms of assessing your roof potential. They can also then verify that with a site visit and installing then your system soon after. So typically that process can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on a variety of factors. Once that system is installed, then you're good to go. There'll be interconnection with San Miguel Power. And then depending on where we are with COVID, we like to have a party. We're probably gonna have a virtual party in June. And then for us, as we get toward the latter part of summer, maybe we'll see that in-person things could be an option again. So in terms, again, of who picks the installer, it's our co-op members. And there are a variety of criteria that we look at. So price is one, certainly, though the lowest price doesn't always win, because the value of equipment quality, warranties, experience, whether or not they're a local company, if they also offer any American products, there's a lot of factors that can go into that selection process. So like I said, we do a thorough review through a spreadsheet to look really apples to apples of what all those aspects are to make an informed decision for the whole group. So that's the gist of the co-op process. And we do plan to, by the end of this month, close the membership, and then we'll work with the installer hopefully relatively soon to start the RFP process. So we hope to firm up the timeline by the next month or so. So that way, going into the summer, we can have a good understanding of where everyone's installations will be. So then I'm going to go ahead and take us to the last section, which is the solar economics of this all. And first, just to say that solar is becoming a better and better investment. We've seen costs drop dramatically, 90% in the last decade. And it really highlights that solar is no longer a specialty or boutique item. It has an excellent return on investment. A lot of people look at it as a similar investment to a bond or a CD. And as of right now, what we do know is that the tax credit is at 26% this year and next year. And then it's slated to go down in the coming years. Though, as I think Terry mentioned it, the federal government's currently looking at potentially extending that as much as 10 years. So we'll have to see what happens there. If anything is passed this year, I imagine it would likely apply for the 2021 tax year. So don't feel like you're going to be missing out if you try to go solar now versus waiting. Those would probably apply for this year. And then just another way of looking at this, you can see that the system component pricing has been leveling off, but again, reducing. But the soft costs for installers tend still to be fairly high. And those soft costs are the cost for a company to be able to reach out into the community, get leads and have those contacts of different families, have those kitchen side conversations, or in this case, virtual conversations about solar and letting them know what their offers could be or their proposal, and ultimately signing a contract. And for each customer, that overhead can be thousands of dollars. So for Solar United Neighbors, our focus is how do we help reduce those costs? And for full transparency, we are funded not only through supporting from foundations or from municipalities, in this case, the town of Mountain Village, but also for every install, we do get $600 as a development fee, allowing us to do our mission, which helps save the installer money as well as the consumer money as well. And so again, that helps reduce those soft costs. And so as a visual with the tax credit, this kind of highlights what that looks like over the next couple of years. So 21 and 22, you see it's still at 26%, begins to go down 23. And then as of now for residential, it's slated to be phased out to 0%. Though for commercial buildings, it will go down to 10% and stay there indefinitely. And then just to retouch on the rebates that we've discussed tonight. So first with solar, the San Miguel Power Association does offer a 25-cent rebate up to $750 or 3 kilowatt system. They also offer that EV charger rebate, so 50% of the cost up to $1,000. And then once it's developed and finalized for Earth Day, the battery rebate at $500 with a minimum 6 kilowatt hour battery. And then if you are a resident of Mountain Village, then you are also able for the first 20 members to take advantage of that $2,500 rebate for the first members that go solar with the solar co-op. Then it's anyone that is in deed restricted housing within Mountain Village is also going to be automatically qualified to get the $2,500 additional for that project for a total of $5,000. And that'll be available as funding is available. And so again, that's first come first served basis. Again, it's just really great that there is this support. We don't see that a lot in many communities. So this is a unique opportunity I encourage everyone to take advantage of. And Marty, I don't know if I think we've hammered it home, but anything else you want to add?
No, I think you covered it perfectly. Okay,
great. So, okay, we've been talking a lot about pricing and you guys want to see some numbers. So this is what, based on what we've learned is about the average price in this area is about $3.50. Statewide, the average is around $3 a watt. So obviously it varies, especially in a more remote mountain community, there are additional expenses as you are aware. But certainly with these additional incentives, and this doesn't include the additional $2,500 if you are in a deed restricted home, you can see that there are net savings, especially when you look at the savings over time of the 25-year span. So anywhere from $16,000 to $30,000 of potential savings based on the solar system. Now, again, this pricing that you see here is the market pricing that we're seeing. It's not necessarily reflective of what we might see for co-op pricing. We do see savings anywhere from 10, 20%, maybe more, depending on the installer, the equipment, and all the selection criteria I mentioned earlier. So while this is $3.50 a watt, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the pricing you'll see ultimately for the proposal. And a side note is that we do consider the proposals proprietary. And so all of our members to get access to that proposal will need to sign a confidentiality agreement just to respect that relationship we have with the installer and not to undermine any of that relationship. So we won't publicly talk about the pricing, but again, oftentimes we do see significant savings. And so what this looks like in terms of paying off your system, there is that 26% federal tax credit that you'll be able to get on your taxes in the following year, as if you are a taxed entity. And you can see by the time we get to the 8 to 12 year mark, depending on how your solar system pays for itself, if you tie in an electric vehicle or battery, there might be more efficiency, so you can actually pay off your system quicker. But you can see again what that payoff timeline looks like. And then if you take a loan, 10-year loan or 15-year loan, you can see again the differences of what that payoff looks like over time and how it accumulates into savings. In terms of financing options, there are a lot of options that are available to folks. There are a variety of loans. Installers themselves often provide loans. There's also the home equity line of credit. There are standard loans. Solar loans are presented by certain banks, and there are also bridge loans. I know with Colorado, there's also the renewable, I always forget what it means, but it's the Renew program. I'll know, Terry, off the top of your head if you know the acronym, but the Colorado Energy Office offers a Renew program, which offers pretty significantly low rates, as well as for those with lower credit scores. So A lot of installers are connected with that program.
Yeah, I don't know the acronym, but I also know that Alpine Bank and Citizens Bank, two of the local banks here, have special loan rates for these kinds of systems.
Yeah, exactly. And we're finance neutral. Alpine Bank is a partner of ours, but yeah, they offer options. We do have the Clean Energy Credit Union and the Community First Credit Union. If you're a Solar United Neighbors member of a co-op, you also automatically qualify to be a member of those two unions as well. So again, lots of options. You can also look at refinancing. And then there's also the option of third-party ownership. What we generally say is if you're looking at lease for a system, always read the fine print, mainly because oftentimes if you're trying to sell your home or relocate, there might be, you may have to buy out the system as well as other fine print there. So for some people that might be more ideal, but again, just read the fine print. And there's also grants, and we've had a few members take advantage of this up in Mesa County, the USDA Rural Energy for America program grant. I haven't officially looked it up, but I assume Mountain Village in the surrounding area qualifies as a rural area in terms of REAP. So if you do have a home business of any variety, certainly that is something to look into in terms of those benefits. And then speaking about loans, this is just an example of what it might look like with the incentives. So you can see in terms of a 4 kilowatt system versus an 8 kilowatt system, what that loan looks like in terms of the payment, the savings that are anticipated, and the net savings that could come from that. So again, you can kind of just see how that works out. So to wrap up, in terms of what's next, if you haven't already signed up, you can sign up to become a member at solarunitedneighbors.org/Mountain Village. Certainly there's incentive for those that are in Mountain Village to sign up. And then once we do go forward with an installer to take advantage of those rebates. But right now, especially just help get the word out. We love to make sure that everyone knows about this opportunity. And once we do hit about 30 people, we will open up that process for the request for proposal from bids from installers. And so we can just go to the website. Again, that's www.solarunitedneighbors.org/Mountain Village. And you'll be able to just click join the co-op button, fill out that information, and then you get plugged in that way. As Marty said, yes, May 15th is when we will close to new members. So the sooner you get in, the more quickly we'll be able to move everything forward. And I'll just briefly wrap up to say that, again, we do a lot of advocacy and education when we look at issues that arise, whether through state legislature or at the Public Utilities Commission. And so certainly we will keep you informed. We have lots of ways of demonstrating our support. And one of our programs that we're working on right now is the Colorado pay-as-you-save model. Basically, pay-as-you-save allows you to make investments with energy improvements at your home, whether it's efficiency or conservation and solar as well, and actually have the utility provide the finances for it. So it's attached to your utility bill and not you and not your credit or any debt for you as a customer. And what's great about this is it opens up access and allows you to not only pay off the improvements for your bill, but also because of the savings realized from those improvements, your bill will go down right off the bat. So we believe that this policy is actually going to be very great in terms of expanding equity and access to these improvements. And it's something that we're currently working at the State House to get this into language to move it forward. So if you are interested in learning more, you can go check us out at coloradopays.org. With that, again, I'm Bryce, and I am the Colorado Program Director. Happy to answer your questions. You can reach myself and Vincent at co-team@solarunitedneighbors.org. So if you have any questions beyond tonight, feel free to email us there.